One morning, I got a call from my mom. She was crying and sounded really upset. "Grandpa is badly hurt. Please stay home. He needs you," she told me. I was supposed to go on a trip, but after hearing that, I canceled everything right away. I thought my family needed me, so I stayed behind. But a few days later, I saw something that broke my heart. My parents and my brother were on vacation, smiling in sunny pictures online. They had gone to Maldives without me. But that wasn't even the worst part. Soon after, I found out they had taken the entire $5 million from our family trust fund. Money that was meant to be shared between me and my brother Jeremy. They took all of it and completely cut me out. I felt shocked, hurt, and betrayed. I never imagined that my own family would do something like this to me. Looking back now, I realized the warning signs were always there, but I ignored them. I kept telling myself, it was all in my head. My name is Rachel Zgler, and I grew up in Dallas, Texas. On the outside, we looked like a perfect, wealthy family. But inside, we were broken. My dad, Tyler Zgler, always told everyone he built his hotel business from nothing. He wanted people to believe he was a self-made man. But that wasn't true. The real reason for our wealth was my grandfather, Jerry Zgler. He was smart with money and made wise investments that gave our family financial security for years. He set up a trust fund worth millions. That money was supposed to be shared between me and Jeremy when we got older. But my parents decided I didn't deserve a single cent. Jeremy was always their favorite. He got everything handed to him. Private schools, fancy cars, and powerful connections. I had to work for every little thing I had. Even when we were kids, the difference was clear. If Jeremy wanted something, he got it. If I needed help, I was told to figure it out on my own. Still, I believed that if I worked hard enough, they'd eventually respect me. I did everything I could to prove myself. I studied hard, graduated with honors, became a financial analyst, and saved every dollar I earned. I thought they'd finally see my worth. But none of it mattered. They had made up their minds long ago. A few months ago, when the Maldives trip was planned, I thought it would be a chance to relax and bring us closer as a family. I didn't know it was all a lie. They used Grandpa's health as an excuse to leave me behind and steal everything that was meant for both of us. That's when I decided I wouldn't let them get away with it. I hadn't felt this excited in years. I had been working long hours to save up for a special trip with my family. Even bought new clothes and took time off from my job. I thought this vacation would be a new beginning for all of us, a chance to relax and reconnect as a family. I was really looking forward to it. But just one day before we were supposed to leave, I got a phone call from my mom, Kelly. Her voice was shaky, and she sounded like she had been crying. "Rachel, honey, there's been an accident," she said softly, trying not to break down. "Your grandpa slipped and got badly hurt. We need you here." As soon as I heard that, my heart sank. My grandpa meant the world to me. He was the only person in the family who had always treated me with kindness and respect. He never played favorites. He was fair, loving, and supportive when no one else was. Without thinking twice, I canceled my flight, packed my bags, and rushed over to his house, feeling scared and anxious. But the moment I walked into the house, I felt like the floor had dropped beneath me. There was Grandpa sitting comfortably in his chair, completely fine. He was reading a book, relaxed, and looked healthy. When he saw me, he looked confused. "Rachel, what are you doing here?" he asked. I was stunned. "Mom called me," I said, trying to understand what was happening. "She said you had a bad fall and needed help." Grandpa's face suddenly turned serious. He closed his book, leaned forward, and rubbed his forehead. "She told you that," he said, clearly upset. My heart started to beat faster. Something felt very wrong. "What's going on, Grandpa?" I asked, my voice trembling. He was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at me with a mix of sadness and anger. "She asked me to lie," he finally said. "She called a few days ago and wanted me to pretend I was hurt so you wouldn't go on the trip. She said it would keep the peace in the family, but I refused. I told her I wouldn't lie to you." I couldn't breathe. My own mother had made up a story just to keep me from going on the trip. But why? I whispered. Grandpa reached for my hand. That vacation, they never planned to include you, he said gently. It felt like someone had hit me in the chest. No, that couldn't be true. I didn't want to believe it. I hoped there had been a mistake or a misunderstanding. Then my phone buzzed. Without thinking, I pulled it out. There was a new Instagram notification. I opened it, and my heart broke into pieces. Right there on my screen was a photo of my entire family. They were at the beach resort in Maldives, laughing, smiling, holding drinks. My parents, my brother, Jeremy, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone was there. Everyone except me. I was supposed to be in that photo. I kept staring at the screen, my eyes stuck on the words written under the picture. Jeremy had posted it himself. The caption read, "Family vacations are the best. So grateful for this beautiful trip." My hands started to shake. My mind felt like it had stopped working. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. They had lied to me. They had tricked me. My own family never wanted me on that trip. Tears filled my eyes, but I told myself I wouldn't cry. I bit my lip and clenched my fists, digging my nails into my palms to stay calm. My mother had looked right at me and lied. My father, the man who always told me to work hard and earn everything, had pushed me aside on purpose. And Jeremy, the brother I had stood up for so many times, had left me out like I didn't even exist. I turned to my grandpa, my voice flat and empty. Why would they do this? His jaw tightened as he looked at me. "I don't know, sweetheart," he said softly, "but I do know one thing." He reached out and gently squeezed my hand. "This isn't just about a vacation. Something bigger is going on." I nodded slowly, my heart racing. He was right. This wasn't only about the trip. It was something deeper, something that had been going on behind my back. I took a deep breath and wiped the tears from my face. If they thought I would just sit quietly and accept this, they were wrong. I was going to find out the truth. And when I did, they would regret treating me like I didn't matter. That night, I barely slept. I sat on the couch in Grandpa's living room, staring at my phone. I kept scrolling through the vacation photos again and again. Each picture felt like a knife to the heart. They were all there. My mom, Dad, Jeremy, my aunts and uncles, laughing, smiling, holding drinks, and enjoying the beach. My mom had her arm around Jeremy, like he was the only one who mattered. They had lied to my face. They had used Grandpa's name to keep me away. The hurt ran deep, but I knew I couldn't let it break me. I needed to know the truth. Grandpa sat beside me, his face serious. "Rachel," he said, "there's something I need to tell you." I looked at him, feeling nervous. "I've had my suspicions for a while," he continued. "I didn't want to believe your parents would do something like this, but now I think it's time you knew." He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder. My heart pounded as he handed it to me. I hesitated. Something inside me told me that whatever was in that folder would change everything. With shaky hands, I opened it. Inside were bank records, legal papers, and trust fund reports. My world was about to be turned upside down. Grandpa's voice sounded heavy, filled with sadness. "This is everything I've collected over the years," he said. "It's about your trust fund, Rachel. It was supposed to be shared equally between you and Jeremy." My throat felt tight. "Supposed to be?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes. But your parents slowly took your share over the years. First, they used it to pay for Jeremy's private school. Then, they bought him a fancy car. Later, they used more money to support his failed businesses. Every big expense Jeremy had, it came from your inheritance." I felt like I couldn't breathe. All those years I had worked late hours trying to save money, struggling just to keep up, and they had been giving Jeremy everything like it was a gift. He never had to work for it. And all along it was my money they used. "How much?" I asked in a quiet voice, barely able to get the words out. Grandpa paused for a moment before answering. "Almost everything. The trust fund was originally worth $5.5 million. I closed my eyes, trying to stay calm. $5.5 million gone. Given to Jeremy. There's more," Grandpa said, lowering his voice. "They're not just taking your money. They're planning to give the entire hotel business to Jeremy." My eyes flew open. What? I said in shock. He let out a sigh. Your father is finishing the paperwork now. Once it's done, Jeremy will own everything, and you'll be left with nothing. I shook my head. I couldn't believe it. But the business was meant for both of us, I said. It was, Grandpa replied. That's why I gave your father control of it years ago. I trusted him to do what was right. But it's clear now. He only sees Jeremy as his heir. My hands curled into fists. They hadn't just taken money from me. They were trying to erase me completely. I had spent my whole life being the responsible daughter, working hard, staying quiet, trying to prove I was worthy. But none of that mattered. They had already made their decision a long time ago. Grandpa placed his hand on mine. You don't have to accept this, Rachel. A cold, sharp feeling settled in my chest.
He was right.
I had wasted so much time trying to earn their love, thinking that if I just worked harder, maybe they'd treat me fairly. But they never would. And now I wasn't going to let them win. I want to stop them, I said, looking him straight in the eye. But I don't know how. That's when Grandpa gave me a real smile, the first one I'd seen since all this began. We're not doing this alone, he said. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. A few minutes later, Aunt Evelyn walked in. She had always been the outsider in the family, but I had admired her. She used to be a strong and smart lawyer, and unlike my parents, she had always treated me with kindness. I felt like I didn't exist, like I was invisible. Aunt Evelyn sat across from me and picked up the folder Grandpa had given me. She flipped through the papers carefully, reading each one. Then she looked up and nodded. This is strong proof, she said. They've been stealing money from your trust fund. And if they're sending money to secret accounts in another country, it means they're planning to disappear. I frowned. Disappear? Where would they go? Italy, Grandpa said, his voice firm. Your father has been moving money into secret bank accounts over there. They want to run away before you find out the full truth. Anger bubbled up inside me. So, they hadn't just taken my money and my future. They were planning to leave with whatever was left, without even looking back. We can stop them, Evelyn said in a strong voice. But we need to move quickly. I took a deep breath. This was my chance. I had spent my whole life doing what they wanted, following their rules, hoping they'd finally accept me.
But now, everything had changed.
I was done being quiet. I was going to fight for what was mine. What do we do first? I asked. Evelyn leaned forward, her eyes shining with determination. First, we expose them. We make this public. I paused. Publicly? She nodded. Yes, they think they have all the power, but there's one thing they care about more than money. Their image, their reputation. I thought about it. She was right. My parents always tried to look perfect. They wanted people to see them as a loving, successful family. If the truth came out, it would destroy that image. A small smile appeared on my face. Then, let's ruin them. Evelyn smiled back. That's my girl. I picked up my phone and started typing. If they thought they could pretend I didn't matter, they were about to find out just how wrong they were. I had never been the kind of person to seek revenge. For years, I only wanted to be accepted. I worked hard hoping that one day my parents would be proud of me. But that girl, the one who kept hoping, was gone now. They had taken everything. My trust fund, my role in the family business, and even my self-respect. I sat with Aunt Evelyn and Grandpa as we planned our next steps. Step 1. Tell the world what they had done. My parents had built their lives around a lie. They wanted to be seen as the perfect couple, successful business owners, and proud parents. But it was all fake. I opened Instagram and stared at Jeremy's vacation photos. His newest post showed him on a balcony, drink in hand, smiling. The caption read, "A well-earned break. Nothing like success to make life sweeter." I clenched my jaw. Success. He hadn't earned a thing. Everything he had was stolen from me. I typed my own post and hit send. I wrote, "Funny how my parents lied about Grandpa being hurt just to stop me from joining the family vacation. Even funnier, how the hotel business and trust fund meant for both me and my brother are now only in his name. Stolen money, stolen business, and they thought I'd never find out." Then I leaned back and watched as the likes and comments started rolling in. Within minutes, the post had hundreds of reactions. Some comments were from distant family members who were shocked by the betrayal. Others came from people who did business with my parents. They were now asking questions and doubting my parents' honesty. And then the phone started ringing. The first call was from Jeremy. "What the hell, Rachel?" he whispered, sounding panicked like he didn't want anyone else to hear him. I waited a second, letting him feel the pressure before I answered calmly. "Oh, you saw the post. Good. Take it down," he said quickly. "You're making Mom and Dad look bad." I gave a short, cold laugh. "I'm making them look bad? Jeremy, they lied to me. They stole from me. And now they're trying to run away with everything. You're lucky all I did was tell the truth." He went quiet for a second, then said, "You don't understand the full story." "Oh, I understand more than enough," I snapped. The next call was from my mother. Her voice was sharp and cold. "Rachel, take that post down right now." "No," I said without hesitation. "You're embarrassing this family. Do you know what you're doing?" I laughed, but it was bitter. "Yeah, Mom. I'm finally standing up for myself. Something I should have done a long time ago." She sighed hard. "Listen, we had reasons for what we did. Your father and I always tried to do what's best for the family." "By stealing my trust fund?" I asked. "We were just making sure things were handled the right way. If we gave you that money, you wouldn't have known how to use it. Jeremy needed it more." I cut her off. "Right? Because Jeremy was more responsible, the better one for the business. Just admit it. You never wanted me to have anything." There was silence on the line. Then she said, "If you don't take the post down, you'll regret it." I smiled. "Oh, I think you're the ones who will regret this." By the end of the day, everything started falling apart for them. Reporters were asking hard questions about my parents' business. Hotel employees who had stayed silent for years started speaking up about unpaid wages and strange money dealings. Grandpa made a few calls to his business contacts, and suddenly investors were starting to pull back. That night, Aunt Evelyn and I filed legal papers to freeze the transfer of the hotel business. My parents hadn't finished the paperwork yet, but they were close. We had to move fast, and we did. If we could prove that the business transfer happened because of lies or tricks, we could stop it completely. But we had one final move left. Grandpa had one more document he hadn't shown anyone yet. It was the original contract between him and my father, the one that gave my dad control of the hotel business. There was an important part in the contract that everyone had ignored for years. It said that if there was ever proof of dishonesty or bad behavior, control of the business could be taken away. The next morning, I walked into the corporate office without hesitation. I went straight to my father's office. He and my mother were inside, hurriedly shredding papers. Dad looked up, and his face turned red. "You don't belong here," he snapped. I gave him a cold smile. "Actually, Dad, I do." I held up Grandpa's contract. "I think you'll want to read this." For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. They knew it was over. For years, I had felt like I had no power. I had watched my parents treat Jeremy like a king while I got nothing. I saw them lie to me, take away every chance I had, and pretend I was part of the family when really I was just someone they didn't want around. But standing there in my father's office, holding the contract that could ruin their whole plan, I realized something. I had never been powerless. My dad grabbed the paper from my hand and started reading it quickly. With every line, his face grew darker. My mom stood behind him, pale and shaky, holding onto the desk like it was the only thing keeping her standing. I crossed my arms. "You ignored this clause, didn't you?" I asked calmly. "The one that says if you were ever caught stealing or lying about money, you'd lose control of the business." My dad slammed the paper down on his desk. "This is nonsense. You don't know what you're talking about." I smiled slowly. "Oh, but I do." I pulled another set of papers out of my bag. "These are bank records, financial statements, and proof that you took money from the trust fund that legally belonged to me." My mom's hands started to shake. "Rachel, let's talk about this," she said quickly. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, now you want to talk. Where was this concern when you gave all my money to Jeremy? When you handed the business to him behind my back? Right then, Jeremy ran into the room, red-faced and out of breath. You're ruining everything, he shouted. Why can't you just let it go? Why do you have to tear this family apart? I tilted my head. You mean the family that stole from me and acted like I didn't matter? He threw up his hands. You're just jealous. I couldn't help but laugh. Jealous of him? He had spent his whole life living off money that wasn't even his. He didn't earn anything. He just floated through life while pretending to be successful. It was all fake. And now the truth was finally out. Jeremy had everything handed to him while I had worked hard for everything I had. Jealous. I repeated the word and stepped closer. No, Jeremy. I'm just done letting all of you use me. Right then, the office doors opened. 2 federal agents walked in, followed by Aunt Evelyn and Grandpa. My dad's face lost all its color. What is this? He shouted. One of the agents, a tall man in a suit, stepped forward. Mr. Sklar, we have proof that you and your wife were involved in serious financial crimes. These include stealing money and sending it to secret bank accounts overseas. You are both under arrest. My mom gasped and turned to my dad in panic. Tyler, do something. But there was nothing he could do. The agents put handcuffs on both of them. My dad turned to me, his eyes full of anger. You think you've won? He hissed. You think you're better than us? I looked him straight in the eyes, my face calm. No, I said softly. I just finally chose to stand up for myself. Jeremy took a step back, the truth finally sinking in. He looked at me, shocked. You ruined everything, Rachel. I shrugged. No, Jeremy, you did. As the agents led them out, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. After that, things moved fast. The court case against my parents didn't take long. Aunt Evelyn led the charge, using all the evidence we had. Once the truth about the stolen money and lies came out, the court canceled the deal that gave Jeremy the hotel business. It was proven to be based on fraud. My parents lost everything. Jeremy, without their money and support, was left with nothing. Grandpa also went to court to help get my trust fund back, but most of the money was already gone. Still, the court gave me something even bigger. Full ownership of the Sklar hotel business. I was the only one legally entitled to it now. The very thing my parents tried so hard to take from me was now mine. At first, I wasn't sure if I even wanted it. Taking over the company meant dealing with the mess my father had left behind. It meant fixing broken relationships, earning trust, and showing people that I was not like him. But then I remembered everything I had lost, everything I had fought so hard for. And I realized I wasn't just taking back what was stolen from me. I was creating something better. 4 months later, I walked into the Sklar Hotel headquarters, not as an outsider, but as the new owner. Employees who had once been afraid now greeted me with smiles and relief. The toxic rule of my parents was over, and I was ready to lead with honesty, strength, and a fresh start. I made real changes to the company. I made sure all employees were paid fairly. I started a scholarship program to help their families. I also changed the way the business worked, so everything was open and honest. Jeremy tried to contact me once. He made a weak attempt to get back on my good side. I didn't reply. Some wounds are too deep, and some people never really change. My parents were sent to prison for financial fraud. For the first time in my life, I didn't care what they thought of me anymore. I no longer needed their approval. One afternoon, I sat with Grandpa on the balcony of one of our newly remodeled hotels. We looked out at the ocean, the waves calm and peaceful. He took a sip of his coffee and smiled. You know, he said, your grandfather would be proud of you. I turned to him. Why do you say that? He looked at me kindly and said, you took all the pain they caused you, all the betrayal, and turned it into something they never expected. I smiled. And what's that? He reached over, gently squeezed my hand, and said, your victory. He was right. In the end, my parents and Jeremy had stolen from me. They had lied and tried to erase me from everything I worked for. But all they really did was push me to become stronger. They thought they were breaking me. Instead, they helped me discover the power I had all along. Their betrayal didn't destroy me. It woke me up.